Good morning, everybody. The time is now 8 o'clock. I call the Finance Committee to order for today's date is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. A quorum of the members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the board, family, or other emergency or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. I have a motion. I had a second, I believe. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, member Zay. I believe we have member Zay online.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Can I get a roll call for the rest?
All right, member Cahill, member Childress, member Covert,
Here.
member Desart, member Eckhoff, member Evans, member Galassi, member Garcia,
Here.
member Heather, member Honig,
Here.
member Krajewski, member LaPlante, member Ozag, member Rutledge, member Schwarzy, member Tornatori, member Yu,
Here.
and member Zay.
Okay.
Here.
All right. For we have a note. Do we have any public comment? No public comment? None out here. Although we do want to welcome, I believe in the audience today, we have one of our members' daughters, member Heather's daughter is in the audience. So welcome. And we also have, you want to say the name from, we have a girl from, okay, we have a girl here from Oswego High School watching us. Her name is Gia. We won't give a last name. Okay. So welcome, and we hope that you learn a lot today, and we'll try to be somewhat interesting just for you. All right. Okay, for chairwoman's remarks, I wanted to get the board up to date on exactly what the budget process is going on right now. As you know, 27th was the end of the budgets, and all the budgets were turned in from the departments except for one. So, so all of them were put in OpenGov and they're being looked at, and we're going to start having meetings. Vice Chair Cahill, myself, and the chair and staff will be start having meetings on those budgets. And we're also going to start today with the presentations. So make sure we have lots of good questions for them so that we can go into those meetings and have some good feedback from all of you board members. As you know, the one that did not turn it in was the clerk's office. They did turn in a budget that they designed themselves, but it was not what OpenGov was looking for or anything that works with the finance department. I believe that's correct. Correct. If you want to correct me, Jeff, on that one, I believe that they were used line items that actually do not exist under OpenGov.
That budget did not include any guidelines that were based on our financial policies or GAAP. It basically had 3 categories of expenses without any accounts. So it was just basically a list of items to be funded, I guess, if you will.
And there was no past, I believe, no past expenditures or actual, correct? It was just what.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
So I just want to get you up to date on exactly what was turned in, and we'll be following up at that point in time, I think. But that's the facts. And so going on from that, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the Finance Committee for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025? A motion by member Heather, second by member, I believe, Honig. Any discussion on the minutes? Sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to budget transfers, and may I get a motion on FIR 011425 budget transfer for 7/8/2025 various companies and accounting units. So motion by member Yu, second by member Evans. Any discussion on these? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to procurement requisitions, and handing it over to Vice Chair Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval on 25-1538, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Edward Hospital doing business as Edward Occupational Health to provide health-related services, including TB tests, chest x-rays, drug screens, and functional job screens for human resources for the period of July 18th, 2025 through July 17th, 2026 for a contract total amount of $27,983 per bid.
Okay, motion by member Cahill, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 0112-25, amendment to requisition 25-1538, issued to Edward Hospital doing business as Edward Occupational Health to provide health-related services for human resources for a one-time price increase and in addition to scope, human resources.
Got a motion by member Cahill, second by member Covert. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
You. I move for approval on FIP 0007-25, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Mail Services LLC for the purchase of assessment mailers to DuPage County taxpayers for the supervisor of assessments for the period June 1st, 2025 through August 7th, 2026 for a contract total amount not to exceed $130,000 per renewal of bid. First of two optional renewals, supervisor of assessments.
Okay, we got a motion by member Cahill, second by member Colbert. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to human services. Thank you, Vice Chair Cahill and member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on 25-1645, HSP 9A25, amendment to resolution HSP 925 to DuPage Home Ownership Center doing business as Home DuPage to increase encumbrance in the amount of $40,000 for additional grant funding received by the ILD CEO, resulting in an amended contract total not to exceed $86,888.
Okay, we've got a motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you. I move on 25-1646, HSP 5A25, amendment to resolution HSP 525, issued to Garden Works project to increase the encumbrance in the amount of $4,992 for additional grant funding received by the ILD CEO, resulting in an amended contract total not to exceed $74,992.
Thank you. We got a motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on 25-1647, HSP 8A25, amendment to resolution HSP 825, issued to Outreach Community Services, Inc. to increase encumbrance in the amount of $15,000 for additional grant funding received by the ILD CEO, resulting in an amended contract total not to exceed $115,000.
Motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on HSP 2825, awarding resolution issued to Arcos Environmental Services, Inc. to provide mechanical, HVAC, and architectural weatherization labor and materials for the weatherization program for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $135,000.
Motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Covert. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on HSP 2925, awarding resolution issued to Chicago United Industries Limited to furnish, deliver, and install Energy Star appliances for the weatherization program for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $238,000.
A motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on HSP 3025, awarding resolution issued to Healthy Air Heating and Air Inc. to provide mechanical and architectural weatherization, labor, and materials for the weatherization program for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $135,000.
Motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And finally, I move on HSP 3125, awarding resolution issued to My Greenhouse HVAC LLC to provide mechanical and architectural weatherization, labor, and materials for the weatherization program for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, for a contract total amount not to exceed $135,000.
Motion by member Swarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Swarzy. Moving on to Public Works and member Childress, or Vice Chair Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to discharge the Public Works Committee as to agenda item 7C1 FMR 000525.
Got a motion by member Childress to discharge the committee, second by member Evans. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Committee's
Thank you,
still
Madam
discharged.
Chair. I move to approve 7C1 resolution to rescind requisition 251186 issued to Sanders Distribution Air Care Services to provide semi-annual cleaning of the kitchen ducts, hoods, fans for a period of May 26, 2025 through May 25, 2027 for facilities management for a total contract amount not to exceed $20,840.
Got a motion member Childress, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMCO 125, the amendment to purchase order 6937-0001 serve issued to AP Grease Trappers, Inc. for sanitary grease trap and storm basin pumping, jetting, and cleaning for facilities management for a change order to increase the contract amount in the amount of $15,000, taking the contract amount of $87,750,000 and resulted in an amended contract amount not to exceed $102,750, an increase of 17.09%.
Got a motion by member Childress, second by member Covert. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on the amendment to contract 21017 FM issued to AP Grease Trappers, Inc. for sanitary grease trap and storm basin pumping, jetting, and cleaning for facilities management to extend the expiration date to the terms of June 12, 2025 to August 31, 2025.
Second.
Motion by member Childress, second by member Rutledge. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 3325 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Airway Systems for semi-annual cleaning of kitchen ducts, hoods, fans for the Judicial Facilities Office and the JTK Administration Building Jail Care Center for facilities management for a period of July 9, 2025 through July 8, 2027 for a total contract amount not to exceed $37,525 per lowest responsible bid.
Okay, we got a motion by member Childress, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 3425 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Fox Valley Fire and Safety Company for preventative maintenance, testing, repair of the non-Edwards system technology, fire alarms, and safety and life safety systems for county facilities for a period of August 28, 2025 through August 27, 2026 for a total contract amount not to exceed $117,250 per renewal option under bid award 22-080 FM, third and final option to renew.
Motion by member Childress, second by member Covert. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FWP 1725 on the recommendation for the approval to Dynamic Industrial Services for rehabilitation of a 250,000 gallon elevated water storage tank for Public Works for a period of July 8, 2025 to November 30, 2026, for a total contract amount not to exceed $390,600 per lowest responsible bid.
Got a motion by member Childers, a second by, I think, member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FWP 1825 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Mid-America Waters for Waterous Pacer hydrants for Public Works for a period of June 26, 2025 to June 25, 2026, for a total contract amount not to exceed $62,500. First of three options to renew.
Motion by member Childers, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And finally, I'd like to move on PWP 1925 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Revere Electric Supply Company to furnish Rockwell automatic hardware and software support for Public Works and Stormwater Management for a period of May 29, 2025 through May 28, 2028, for a total contract amount not to exceed $72,090.
We're going to motion by member Childers, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? Member Desart.
Thank you. Member Krajewski is absent, so I'll ask the question he would ask. This contract started on May 29th, and I'm curious about that. Because May 29th is passed, obviously. Thank you.
Valerie from procurement coming up to answer your question. Morning, Valerie.
This was just to delay getting it into Public Works, but it did start on that day in case we needed anything, which they did not, but we wanted to make sure we got it in and didn't have a gap in the delay of the service.
Thanks, Valerie. So what would happen if we voted no? And the contract already started? I'm just asking.
I understand, but if the contract had already started, which has not been used yet, then we will have to come to you because it will be a lesser amount that the department can make the decision under $15,000.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Madam
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Any other discussions on this item? All those in favor then?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Childers.
Thank you.
Moving on to technology and member Covert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to discharge Technology Committee as to agenda item 71.
Got a motion by member Covert, second by member Galassi, to discharge the committee. All in favor? Any opposed?
Right. I move to approve on TEP 9-25, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Kara Company, Inc. for the management of the county GPS core sites to include operating, monitoring, and upgrading of software and firmware for information technology GIS division for the period of September 1st, 2025 through August 31st, 2026, for a contract total amount of $39,500, not suitable for competitive bids.
Got a motion by member Covert, a second by member Yu. Any discussion on this item? She said. Okay, no discussion. All in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Covert. Moving on to transportation and member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I need to move to discharge the Transportation Committee to agenda items 7E1 and 7E2.
Motion to discharge the committee, motion by member Ozog, second by member Galassi, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. I move to approve item 251557, amendment to intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the City of Darien to replace the existing retaining wall and fencing along the south side right-of-way of County Highway 31 Plainfield Road to increase the funding in the amount of $264,500, resulting in a final county cost of $452,000.
A motion by member Ozog, a second by member Evans. Any discussion on this item? Member Desart.
Thank you. Curious as to why the retaining wall has to be replaced. Is it just old or how long has it been there?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Actually, I'm gonna let, Bill's got the history on this. I'm just gonna let him.
Thanks, Bill.
Good
But good
morning.
morning, Steve.
Yes, the short answer is the wall is old. It's a wall that is pinned in the sidewalk, and Darian's trying to make some improvements to the sidewalk and the aesthetics, and there's a guardrail. They're trying to get rid of the guardrail. But at the end of the day, the wall, as it sits today, is old and does need replacement.
Bill, is, for future reference, what's the difference between a retaining wall and a sound wall, like in height? And price?
A retaining wall would be, is a structural wall that holds back the earth. And so the height could be anywhere from 6 inches to, 30 or 40 feet. It just depends on what you're trying to hold back. Around
Yeah.
here, on our highways, we would not have anything that big typically. A sound wall, the height is going to be, dependent on the road that you're trying to prevent noise from
Yeah,
getting from to the houses, and it serves no other purpose than to prevent the noise. So it's not structural in terms of holding back.
okay, so it's
the
not
earth,
as
if that makes
hefty.
sense, yeah. The price, I'd have to sit down and look at the retaining wall prices.
Yeah, I know, I'm
on foot
kind of putting you on the
basis.
spot, sorry about that.
Yeah, but they're both quite expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a structural design to them, even if they don't serve a structural purpose.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
just so my colleagues know, but there's a neighborhood in my district that really wants a sound wall, and I just had those questions. So
Yeah.
thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move to approve DTR 002125, awarding resolution to Earthworks Land Improvement and Development Corporation for drainage improvements to Army Trail Road for an estimated county cost of $435,376.10 per lowest responsible bid.
A motion by member Ozog, second by member Cahill. Any discussion on this item? All in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, member Ozog. Moving on to finance resolutions, back to Vice Chair Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval on FIR 0111-25, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding and extension of time for the ILD CEO Community Services Block Grant, Program Year 25, Intergovernmental Agreement Number 25231028. County Unit 560 from $1,269,609 to $1,401,491, an increase of $131,882.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Yu. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 0113-25, approval of employee compensation and job reclassification adjustments, workforce development.
Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Yu. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 0115-25, authorization of contract with International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, Public Works, Stormwater, and Facilities Management.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
Go
move
ahead.
to receive and place on file informational A, payment of claims, and B, county board resolutions.
Okay, who was the second on that? I'm sorry. Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Heather, and a question by member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. I just wanted to point out that I think it was last year about this time, I mentioned that I thought it would be nice to give our staff the week of July 4th off. So when I looked at the calendar, I realized that it was just a happy coincidence that June 30th next year is the 5th Tuesday of the month. So that is in fact happening without having to make any adjustments. So it all worked out. I
That's
just wanted to
fine.
make that comment. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. We're grateful that our staff can have the day off. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna move on to our presentations and we're gonna ask for our DuPage County Recorder, Liz Chaplin and her team. She's got quite the team here, I think, to come up and do our budget presentation. Want to turn the mic on? No.
There we go. Hello. Boy, doesn't take very long before you forget how to use the microphones. A little different being on this side compared to that side. But good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, and everyone here today. I appreciate the opportunity to present our 2026 budget. But before I begin, I'd like to introduce my executive team, and they are the backbone of our office. I have my Chief Deputy, Bill Drobich, also known as Good Bill. I have my Deputy of Finance and Deputy Chief, Leah Escalante, Deputy of Operations, Kim Gallivan, Deputy of IT, who is not here with us today, Guillermo Franco, Financial Analyst, Justin Hester, Executive Assistant, Christiane Lewis, and even though he's not technically part of our executive team, Assistant State's Attorney Graham Quinn, he's considered part of our team and he's been with us since the beginning. In fact, he was our whole transition team. So he was the only one there to help us guide us through the transition. So we really appreciated that. So I'm proud to say that our office isn't just running well. We're giving back more money than we take. For the 2026 budget, we're on track to generate $6.5 million for the general fund, for the county's general fund, while only requesting $1.8 million. That's a net positive of nearly $5 million for the general fund, real money that supports vital services for our residents. As a new recorder, but not new to county government, I draw on my experience as a county board member. And while we've been transitioning over these past 6 months, I've found that there are some of our policies and procedures could be a little more clear and more consistent. As you know, I'm a rule follower. I mean, I follow the rules to a fault. And sometimes when things are inconsistent, it makes it very hard to do that. So I would love to be part of a committee maybe or a subcommittee on this with this group to work to find maybe solutions, or maybe you can see what we have to do to go through to meet some of these challenges, and maybe we could work together to make things a little bit easier for everyone. So in our office, we don't simply do things because that's the way they've always been done. We're making meaningful change and we're serving our taxpayers better. So in our slideshow, we're sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's how transparency is, and that is how we're going to justify every dollar that we're requesting. So here we go on to our budget presentation. So this is our organizational structure. The DuPage County Recorder's Office is committed to precisely recording, preserving, and maintaining all recorded documents to ensure a clear and accurate chain of title. This is our organizational chart. It's pretty straightforward, and I don't know if anybody has any questions on this. Okay, guess we can move on. Okay, our performance measures. So you can't measure what you don't or won't count. So we have tripled the number of our performance measures to hold ourselves to a higher standard and protect the taxpayers. That's how you earn trust. So our first item is under community well-being, and that's our honors rewards. Our honors rewards program was set up by Recorder Buckholtz. And what that is working with businesses throughout the county. They offer discounts to veterans. And what we do is we provide the discount card to the veterans so they can take advantage of discounts at local businesses. So as you can see, these are the total number of members since the program has been incorporated. So we project to be up to 2,550 cards by the end of 2026. So public outreach. We are working very, very hard on public outreach. I think it's really important to engage the community because when you engage with the community, you bring them in, you earn their trust. So we've had 7 events so far this year, including 2 signature events. One was our unveiling of the 1846 original document land patent signed by President Polk, and we had our Flag Day ceremony. We have 2 events scheduled for later on this year. We have a come to our office and learn how to research, and then we're going to be working on a restrictive covenant presentation with the NAACP. So those are going to be, I believe, in August and September of this year. We also be attending the county fair. And we are projecting to do 20 events this year. Social media. I think it's really important, like I said, to engage with the public. Social media is just another way we do that. Our slide says that we've had so far 60,679 hits or views to our social media. So we have increased that number just this morning to 67,056 views to our social media. So you can see people are looking, and it's a great way to provide information to the public. Our next item is our rental housing supplement program. And that we collect that fund. So our recording fee is $86, and out of that $86, $18 goes to this program. That is state mandated that we do that, but we're a very proud contributor to support low-income rental housing support. So we're extremely proud to participate in that. As far as fiscal responsibility, you're probably saying, why is percent of rejections under fiscal responsibility? Well, we're the recorder of deeds, not the rejection of deeds, right? So we don't want to reject documents because if we reject them, that's less revenue for the county. And you can see in 2023, that was a great rejection amount, 18%. That's pretty good. In 2024, something happened that they were up to over 27% of rejections. So when we came in, my chief deputy and my executive team here, we started a program to retrain all of our staff. And part of the training was how to handle rejections. So instead of just, when you record a document, there are standards that you have to meet. They have to meet recording standards to record this document. So if all those standards aren't met, if all the requirements are not met to record a document, we can't do it. So instead of just returning that document back, we give a call to the person and we say, by the way, did you know if you just submit this to us, we can record that document for you. So because as I said, the more documents we record, the more revenue for the county. So for this year, we have a projection of about 21% rejections. By 2026, we hope to get down to 15% rejections of submitted documents. A thriving economy. So total number of documents recorded. And really, that's based on the economy. How's the real estate market doing? We don't have a lot of control over that number. But again, we're going to try to get every document we can record by not rejecting so many documents. Our next number is documents sold, number of documents sold. So when we took office, we kind of did an audit on the office ourselves. And we realized that nobody was keeping track of the number of documents sold. So if you're not keeping track of the number of documents sold, how do you know how much money we're supposed to be giving to the general fund? How do we know that people aren't giving away free documents? How do we know that people aren't putting money in their pocket if we're not keeping track of the number of documents sold? It's very important. So we are now keeping track of the number of documents sold, and we're going to balance that out every day and make sure that the number of documents sold equal the cash that we have and that we're contributing the correct amount to the general fund. Under Safe Community, we have our Property Fraud Alert. Again, that program was created under Recorder Buchholz. And again, that is the number of total members that are in our Property Alert program. But if you look at what the 2025 projection was, they projected to have 12,000 members by the end of 2025. We're already at 13,126. So we have surpassed that number. And I'm convinced that our community outreach and our social media, we did a press release about this. I'm really convinced that that has brought up the number of people signing up for property fraud. We also have put safeguards in place that we would love to come and talk to the committee about in executive session sometime, but we really don't want to talk about that in open session. And it's not on the chart, but it kind of goes under community safety. We had 7 employees take the CPR training here. So we have a safer workforce that can now not only help an employee, but also a member of the public that might come in and need to be rescued. So we move on to environmental stewardship, and that is the number of our e-recording percentage. So we have a goal of, we're already at 81%, so we've increased that a little bit since taking office. We want to be at 82% by the end of 2025, and we want to be at 85% for 2026. But I'm really hoping for 90% by 2026. And you'll see in our presentation how we hope to increase the number of e-recordings. So we can go on if there's any questions or anything. Okay, next slide then. So our 6-month accomplishments. We're turning our vision into reality. And in just 6 months, we're really moving at record speed. So I knew when I came into the office, things would be, a little confusing, but when we walked in, one of the biggest challenges we faced was the $672,000 no bid, not budgeted for film project that was deemed unusable by my predecessor. So with the help of our state's attorney's office, our IT, my subject matter experts here, we were able to work with the vendor to make the project usable and have our vendor paid. There was a little bit of, here's where some of the policy and procedure things come into place. We wanted this to come out of the 2024 budget where it should have come out because it was done in 2024. The auditor told us we had to take it out of the 2025 budget. So we kept going back and forth. Finally, Baker Tilly was consulted, and Baker Tilly did agree that it should come out of the 2024 budget. So, but that kind of confusing, pushback it puts a lot more time into that kind of things rather than working on things in our office. But we're very pleased with that project, and we now have usable film. But with that being said, that is the last film project that the county is going to be doing. Film is extremely expensive, and it's costly to store. So we have ended the use of microfilm, and we have embraced full digitization, which is really going to be great for the county. We're kind of coming into the century now. We initiated watermarking on all of our documents to ensure our full collection of fees, but also to ensure that these deed companies that sell people copies of their deeds, they say, hey, for $86 or $120, you can get a copy of your deed. They pull those off our website right now because they're not watermarked, and we let people take them for free. So we have initiated watermarking basically too as a safeguard measure for all of our documents, for all of the taxpayer documents actually. So as we mentioned in our performance measures, we pioneered new events to engage and educate our county residents. We've implemented an automated phone attendant to help us with our phone calls. I think maybe we might be one of the few departments that didn't have that, but we're happy to, again, we're using modern technology to help our office be more effective. And as you know, we did conduct an office salary assessment just comparing what our office salaries were with the county salaries, and we did find that they were significantly lower, so we did do some salary adjustments. And we can move to the next slide. We officially removed the DD2 fee from our fee schedule as part of our commitment to honoring DuPage County veterans. We thought that fee is optional, but we're not going to be charging it. And we thought having that fee on there, it might prevent somebody to come in and recording their DD214s, and we want to really encourage that. Another huge accomplishment that we're very, very proud of, we've retained our staff throughout this transition. So we have not lost one employee. And I think that speaks to my executive team. We are treating our employees respectfully, and we're giving them training, and we're trying to be encouraging to them. I think it's just a all-around better environment, but we're really pleased that we have been able to retain all of the staff. We've also incorporated an instant return of original documents at the time of in-person recording and to facilitate faster mail processing. So prior to my taking office, when somebody would come in to record a document, they'd hand our recorder the document, and our recorders would scan it, and then they would hold on to the originals for 2 weeks and then put them in the mail. So what we've done is we scan the document, make a copy, and then we hand the original back to our customer. We're saving in postage by not having to return all those documents in the mail. And this has been so well received. People are like, oh, we were the only county that held onto the documents for 2 weeks, and we now return them. Also with our mail, instead of holding documents for 2 weeks, when we receive something in the mail, we process the mail, we send the document right back in the mail that same day. So we're no longer delaying that process. And one of our proudest accomplishments was we introduced legislation, House Bill 1575, to waive restrictive covenant fees in an effort to correct past discrimination. This passed both the House and the Senate, and we're very pleased that our legislation passed. We just don't think it was right to charge people a fee to correct a past discrimination. So we're extremely proud of that accomplishment as well. Okay, any questions? Okay. Oh, if it's okay.
Sure. Member Colbert?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wonderful presentation. Are you towards the end of the presentation? I didn't want to interrupt.
No, we have our budget. Now we're going into our budget.
Got it. I have questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I believe our next slide is our budget. I'm not sure. Oh, no, we have our short-term objectives. Oh, member
Evans.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank you for doing the, I used to go to the recorder's office about once every 2 weeks when I used to work here. And we did have to wait for somebody to get their original back, so they couldn't even photocopy it. And we required photocopies, so they had to pay, what was it, $12 per sheet to get a photocopy, and we required 2 copies. So that will be a value add to anybody who's going through the difficult process of even getting a permit from our building. So I want to thank you for doing that. And yeah, so great job streamlining that process. It was such a really annoying, it was a fact of life, but it was just so annoying for everybody.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. So now we're moving on to our short-term objectives. So we want to accommodate single e-recordings without a subscription. So that means right now, title companies can e-record. They have to pay a hefty subscription fee to do that. But we're working with a vendor that will allow anybody to just, if they want to record a document once or twice a year, to record that document, to e-record it, and pay a $4 or $5 fee. So this is how we plan to increase our e-recordings. We are also going to introduce the ability to e-certify documents, and we are going to have the highest level of certification there is. We're going to be getting federal certification to e-certify our documents, which we're very excited about. We achieve the milestone of, we want to be the first recorder in the state of Illinois to e-record a plat. We have assessed our current fee value ranges based on the results of our newly commissioned cost study, and we will probably be bringing some increased fees for you to hopefully approve. We are going to be initiating a $5 fee for the sale of previously recorded documents, and all of these fees are going to the county general fund. We don't benefit from it, but we are the only county that does not charge for fees for recorded documents or documents that are online. Currently, they can just take our documents offline and print them. So we also are going to we're exploring saving money by our storage expenses. So we may be using the county's facilities to store our film rather than off-site, which cost us about $12,000 a year. We are establishing both a policy and procedure manuals. There were none when we came into the office. We want to complete cross-training for our staff for a well-rounded workforce. When we entered the office, 2 recorders could record for title companies. Now every recorder can, and the title company they're thrilled with that they can now go to any recorder to have their work processed. And if we, next slide, please. And our long-term goals, to apply for all applicable federal and state grants, to be fiscally responsible with our preservation efforts, to implement inter-county data communication system with our applicable departments. So what that means is we work closely with the clerk and the supervisor of assessments. Prior to, I think it was 2018, we could go in and look on the computer and verify a PIN number. But with the recording platform that was purchased in 2018, that we could no longer do that. So we don't have a way to verify PIN numbers right now. And sometimes the PIN number that we put in is not correct, and it goes to the supervisor of assessments, which makes their job much more difficult. So we're trying to work with the clerk and the supervisor of assessments on how we can verify those PINs easily and provide accurate documentation to the supervisor of assessments. And we've met with both several times, so we're excited about that. We want to pioneer AI use in continuing the process of our indexing our archived materials back to 1839. And our IT department has kind of given us the green light that they'd like to help us with that. So we're excited about that. We are planned to preserve all books and fireproof and waterproof bindings to fulfill our statutory duty to preserve documents. We want to enhance our black and white images with grayscale for higher quality reproduction. When people are paying for documents, they should have the highest quality. We plan to digitize our grantor and grantor books to facilitate remote research. And some of you may not know the story, but we in Naperville were fighting over the county seat. And during that fight, 5 deed books fell off a wagon, and we believe were taken to Chicago Title, and supposedly they were burned in the fire. But we think Chicago Title might have those 5 books, or maybe even a duplication of those books. So once we get all of our things done, we might plan a trip out to Chicago Title and see if we can find those 5 books to have a complete set of books, a whole library. Okay, and I think now we get into our budget presentation. Oh no, okay, this is important too. Our due diligence. So this is like when taking a second look at things really makes all the difference. So there's a county automation fund, and this was a misappropriation of revenue funds discovered through internal financial controls in our office. So my deputy of finance told me when we were doing the budget, he said, I believe that our bulk storage fees that have been going to dock storage should be going to the county general fund. And prior to 2018, they were going to the county general fund. But in 2018, for some reason, the recorders pulled the funds from the general fund and put them in the dock storage fund. Now, when my deputy of finance told me this, she did bring it up to the prior administration, and they didn't do anything with that information. But I said, let's contact our state's attorney and see what guidance they can give us on that. We were given guidance that there should be a county automation fund, and that those bulk sales should be going into the county automation fund. So this year, we have incorporated our our bulk sales that were going into our recorder dock storage fund are now going to be going into the county automation fund where they belong. And if we can go to the next slide, that's the legislation right there. It was done in 2003 that said the county, that we should be putting these funds in a county automation fund. We're putting these funds in the county automation fund because for the integrity of our office and because statutorily, that is what we are required to do. So that's a big difference that we're going to be doing this year with our budget. And now we can go on to our next slide. So this is our recorder's office general fund revenues. And as you can see, we're predicting a little over 6.5 million in revenue for 2026. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. And I think we skipped one. There we go. Our general fund expenses. So if you look at our expenses, you can see our salary line is increased quite a bit. But there's an explanation for that. Historically, 1 or 2 employees have been paid out of our dock storage fund. But in 2022, 8 employees were put in the dock storage fund. When we hired our consultant, we put him in the dock storage fund. And because that's where consultants were normally paid out of. The auditor rejected the invoice for our consultant and said, we can't pay him out of dock storage because that's to be used for dock storage. So we had our consultant give a itemized list of everything he was doing, and it was determined that most of the work that our consultant was performing could be paid out of the dock storage fund. So we did leave the consultant in the dock storage fund for the rest of this year. But for the 2026 budget, he's going into the general fund along with the other employees. We're leaving 1 employee in dock storage because he's our IT, and we have also left. We added an additional employee in dock storage for IT, but a lot of that increase in there is because we're taking those employees out of the dock storage fund and putting them back into the general fund where we should be paying them from. We also have we're going to be giving reviews to all of our we're going to be giving reviews to all of our employees in August. And with those reviews, there will be a few merit increases, and we have made some position changes. So those are reflected in our 2026 budget numbers here. And as you can see, we're asking for a little bit over 1.8 million in for our expenses. Okay, can we move to the next slide? This is our document storage fund. So our document storage and our GIS funds are special revenue funds dedicated by state statute for technology improvements, modernizing records, and ensuring better access for the public. These revenues stay within the recorder's office. We have a clear plan for using them efficiently, and we monitor spending closely to stay within our budget. This year, while we've removed, and I talked about it, we've removed several employees from the dock storage fund. We've included the addition of 1 IT employee, and we do appreciate the board's support, and we will continue to manage these funds responsibly and to the benefit of the taxpayers. So this is our dock storage fund, and our records, real estate documents, and plats are available to the public for research and resale. This facilitates home ownership, establishes chain of title, and provides financial institutions the confidence to issue mortgages. Go on to the next slide. And this is our document storage expense fund. And as you can see, the salaries have gone down, and what our grand total of expenses are out of our dock storage fund. We go to the next slide. In our GIS fund, these are our revenues from our GIS fund. The DuPage County Recorder's GIS system is used to manage and display land records, property information, and other geographical data. We partner with other county departments to ensure the most accurate information possible. And these are our revenues predicted for 2026. And then if we go on to the GIS fund, you can see we have zeroed out the salary line, and those are our expenses. And I know the recorder, we don't set the budget, but since we do provide more revenue to the county than we take, I remember the Safe Haven came to the Finance Committee to ask for funding, and we were hoping that maybe part of our surplus to the county general fund might be able to go to help fund the safe harbor. I know, like I said, I know we don't set the budget, but this was maybe something that can be used with those funds. And I guess we're open to questions.
Okay, Member Covert.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Recorder, this has been an excellent presentation. I don't think I've ever heard of a presentation like this from the Recorder's Office, so thank you. Lots of good information.
Thank you.
I wanted to go back to the slide of the revenues of 6 million. I didn't get a chance to look at that. That is impressive to me because you're asking for less than what you're making, which is good.
Yes, yes. Consistently, the Recorder's Office is an office that generates much more revenue than we require to run our office.
Are the miscellaneous funds, what's included in the miscellaneous fund? Is it the events that we're having?
What, Leah, the miscellaneous?
The investment revenue.
Yeah, that's right. Our investment revenue.
Okay. Okay, and then just really quick, you said we're having 20 events this year.
Yes. So
Is
what
that
we
at
do,
a cost? Or?
so so that's attending festivals and fairs, and then also the events that we hold in our office or outside our office.
At your office. Okay.
Yeah, and the only expense to those would be sometimes we serve refreshments like water and cookies and paying for registration fees for the fairs and festivals. But I think you can see it's paying off as our numbers are showing.
And then my third question is, you said that the salaries went down.
No. Oh,
Or
no.
is that what you said?
No. Our salaries line is going up, but what we're
Okay.
doing is, and the reason for that is because we're taking employees out of our dock storage fund and out of our GIS fund and putting them back in the general fund.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure everybody.
Just to remain consistent.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Covert. Member K, or Vice Chair Cahill.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It was very thorough. So the way I look at this is I'm looking at an overall perspective of this budget. First of all, you keep referring to what you're adding to the general fund. Let me say to you, back in 2022, the Recorder's Office added $8.1 million to the general fund. In 2023, 5.3. In 2024, 5.2. So the Recorder's Office, we use those funds for public safety, for judicial, for many of the things that run this county government. And overall, the budget in the Recorder's Office this year is a 53.92 increase, a 54% increase, 54%.
Yeah.
I mean, that is unbelievable to me. In this time of uncertainty with federal grant monies, governments, universities, we need to tighten our belt. I thought you would come in here today and identify cost savings, eliminate waste, prioritize your needs. This is what we need. We cannot have a 54% increase in a budget. Also, there's an increase in the liability in the general fund by moving all those people from the Recorder's budget to the general fund. You now have IMRF, sick pay, health insurance, all those liabilities now increase in the general fund. How are we going to balance our general fund balance when we have a 54% increase in the Recorder's Office? If every elected official came in and had a 54% increase in their budget, that's not sustainable. We cannot do this in the county. So my two things. Number one, I received an email today from my alma mater, the University of Notre Dame. And they were saying that, I'm sorry, we're cutting our winter meeting. And the reason why we're cutting our winter alumni meeting is because we must cut our 2026 budget by 5%. And going forward, 2.5%, I'm sorry, 2.5%, and then going forward, a 5% reduction. In this time of uncertainty of federal grant monies, what are our priorities here at the county? To me, it's food insecurity. To me, it's Mary Keating and Community Services. I sat in that Human Services meeting, and we are very nervous about what's going to happen with federal grant monies. We cannot have a 54% budget. I went to the July 4th parade, and Member Childress was there with me. And up to me came the supervisor of Addison Township, and he said, "Cindy, we need help. Our food bank is empty. We need money from the county. Can you help us?" And Member Childress and I assured him, absolutely. We will prioritize the needs and we will feed the people of DuPage County. We will feed Addison Township. I ask you to go back and look at where you can identify cost savings. I ask you to reduce your expenses. I ask you to prioritize your needs, because we, as the finance department and going forward, this is not a sustainable budget.
I appreciate your comments, Member Cahill. And as you might know, the recorder's budget has been cut dramatically over the last 4 years. And in order for us to be able to invest in our employees, these employees have had no education for the last 4 years. They have had no opportunity to attend conferences or to even do things online. They were taking paper, slicing it, and stapling it together. And this is what they had to use instead of buying sticky pads. This is what I came into. This is what they were using instead of, now maybe this is what we expect, I don't know, but there's been no investment in that office. And as far as the revenue from 2022, and that's based on the economy. As more people record, we can make more money in the office.
I understand.
And
going forward, that's what's going to happen.
We're planning.
We're planning budget here.
We're providing more money to the general fund by putting money back into the county automation fund that was missing for years. We're also starting to implement charging for documents that have been given away. We are the only county in the state that does not charge for documents. And we have evidence we've seen from other counties that they can collect an additional $300,000 to $500,000 a year by charging for document sales. Something that we have not
fees
done.
for the taxpayers and increasing.
These are title, most of these are title companies. Most of these are title companies. Yes, I did not interrupt you. Most of these are title companies that take our information and use it in their closing packages and charge people. So I believe our budget is very reasonable, and we have presented our budget. So now that's your job. So now it's up to you. If you want to present, if you want to, you have the opportunity to do, you guys make the final say, but I'm presenting a budget that we believe we truly need. Also in that budget, $225,000. You know what that's for? To help bring the veterans down from the cafeteria into our office. Because security had asked, or facilities approached us when we took office, and they said, we'd like to move the veterans down to your office. Now, if the county can't afford it, we have decided that we have the funds to pay for that. And it's for security reasons, and it better serves our veterans. So there's a lot in this budget that I stand by this budget 1,000%.
Okay, and again, and I so appreciate you being here and presenting, and
Yes,
and again,
thank you.
we're going to very, very calmly talk about this and ask our questions. And I know we're all passionate about what we believe, and so let's just keep it on a very professional, calm level. So I thank you, Vice Chair, for your question.
And one follow-up,
One
please.
follow-up.
Thank you. So all I'm saying is you don't have to cut the veterans. Prioritize your needs versus your wants. Prioritize what you need specifically, but do not raise it 54%. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Member
And thank you,
Cahill.
Vice Chair Cahill. Okay, moving on to Member Heather.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recorder Chaplain, thank you so much for coming out today, and especially to your team, your executive team, for being here, standing here, and coming out to present. What you have done today, coming out here and giving us this thorough presentation, shows your commitment to transparency. And I think that's really, really important for us to focus on as different departments. We expect that the least we can expect from our departments is transparency. So the fact that you're here and giving us this thorough presentation shows your commitment to transparency, and I really appreciate that. One final thing, you shared your successes based on the 6 strategic categories of the strategic plan. So as the chair of the strategic planning committee, I really appreciate you including that in your presentation.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, yes, that was intentional. Thank you.
I appreciate your intention. Thank you.
Member Evans?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Recorder Chaplin, for your presentation. It's very thorough. And my question is for the GIS employees that you want to move out of the dock storage fund and into the general fund. How many employees is that?
8. So
8.
here's the thing. So this is where the consistency comes in and why we are trying to be consistent. We are making that decision based on the determination from the auditor. So the auditor told us, you can't have your consultant being paid out of those special funds because statutorily, therefore, technology improvements, modernizing records, ensuring better access for the public. So, and that's by the statute. So to be consistent, instead of just moving our consultant out, we're moving all the employees out and leaving our IT staff in GIS where they belong. So that is why we are moving those employees back to the general fund, to be consistent with information that we are getting from our auditor. So that is, if I can't pay my consultant out of that fund because he wasn't working on these things, but we determined that he was. But some of these other employees, they really don't work in the technology side of it. So we're pulling them out. And the decision was made to put those employees, from what I understand, in those funds to spend down that fund instead of using that fund for things like preserving our books. I mean, people might think that's an extravagant thing, but we're one of the few counties that does not have our books digitized and online. My chief deputy came in, we're about 15 years behind other counties in the recorder's office. And that is, I am not kidding there. So we're investing in things that I am statutorily required to do. I need to preserve those documents. That is in my statute. So you know what? When we preserve those documents, when we put them in fireproof and waterproof bindings, and when we make them available online, we no longer have to have people come in with gloves on, going through these pages of these old books that are from 1839. And I'll tell you what else. When we move the books up here from the archive room, because they're beautiful, and I would encourage all of you to come down and take a look, the bindings, they're so brittle. They just broke off. Almost, I don't mean to be decrepit, but like a deteriorating body and the bone coming off. The binding just broke off in our hand. So, I mean, this is what we're doing in our office. We're not asking for extravagance. I'm trying to fulfill my statutory requirements because it doesn't seem like anybody else in the prior years did.
Thank you. I did want to dig more deeply into the 8. So 8 employees
Yes.
are going to be moved from the document
Yes.
storage fund.
Yes.
But if these 8 employees did not do their work, then you'd be dead in the water, correct?
Oh, no, it's not that they didn't do their work. They were doing their recording. But technically, because they're not on the technology side, they're not in that dock storage side, they should have not been in there in the first place. So historically, they've had 1 or 2 employees on the technology side in dock storage or in GIS. But then in 2022, in order to spend down those funds, like I said, instead of doing like preservation or digitization, they decided to put employees in there to spend down that fund. That's my understanding.
I wonder if there's any wiggle room as far as what the definition of dock storage
Well,
is.
if we could maybe get something from our state's attorney on that, maybe we can go ahead and do that. But, maybe we can get guidance and see if we can put some of them in there. But we just did that based on information to be consistent.
State's attorney saying absolutely, like in my ear, so absolutely. We'll get
Okay.
that for you.
Okay,
We'll get
thank
that
you.
for the-
Thank you,
Thank you
Barb.
so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got Member Honig next.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend you for your sound and concise budget. presentation. I believe eliminating the fees for veterans for the DD 214 forms in terms will serve veterans. And I think at the long term, not turning away people will incur more revenue because there will be more recordings done. So I think when we talk about eliminating waste, I think that there is also the other side of the coin where you will generate more revenue because your office is running more efficiently. So I thank you for that. And I think that you taking value in your staff and investing in your staff is so valuable to any government, as you know, for the sake of retention and to make sure your office still functions. I think that's such a wonderful thing, and you're doing a great job at that. And I think all the talk about, having a budget and keeping it, tight and sound, I think that is, to Member Cahill's point, making sure that with all the federal cuts coming and the uncertainty with the federal government, it's important to keep in mind. But again, there's a lot of talk about just eliminating waste for the sake of eliminating waste. But what is waste to one person or to another? It's all perspective. And we hear that constantly, in our news or whatnot, that, everyone has a different perspective of what waste looks like and what it is not. And I, from your very concise budget presentation, I really do believe that you're not only enhancing your office, you're trying to generate more revenue and do exactly what recorders do. And
Absolutely. And some of those investments, like if we want to e-record, there might be a small investment up front, but that's going to pay us back in the long run. So you have to, in order to grow and create more money, sometimes you have to invest, right? We can't, like I said, this budget has been continually cut for the last 4 years. So really, it's not a 54% increase. If you look at what 2020 was, what 2018, we're really not, it's not really not out of line.
And to follow up on that, I guess one of my questions was, which I believe you answered, was the difference of the $819,000 from the salaries, which you explained was moving those 8 employees to dock storage.
In part, yes.
Part of it. I guess my final question is that with the merit increases, is that something that is accounting for something that wasn't up to par already as the salaries that were
Yes.
set prior to you
Well,
being in office?
Yeah, so when I came in, as you know, we did increases to pretty much everyone. There were a couple employees that were where they needed to be, so we did not increase them. But in the transition in the 6 months, now I have 2 managers. I have a manager and assistant manager, they were not that prior. So I would like to give them a little bump because now they're in a leadership role. I have a couple of other employees that are just doing really great work. A lot of it is, most of it is though, changes in position, and 2 merits I think are in there. So, and they're not huge. They're not unreasonable. We're still lower than, I'll tell you what, we're still lower than what the county board pays their staff. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Member Honag. Member you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciated this presentation. I really appreciate that all of you are here standing as one at the recorder's office. I do have several questions. So I would like to go back to the recorder GIS revenue page. Yeah, there we go. And I just wanted to ask, so I've been noticing that this investment income here from 2022, where it was 8,000 or so, and then it moves all the way up to 45,149. So I'm just wondering, is there something that you are doing differently with the investment income, or is this something that the treasurer's office is handling, or is it a different
It's
fund?
because we moved our account over to the treasurer.
Okay, and it was not with the treasurers
No.
before? And so it was just simply the move?
Right, so because the treasurer, like we used to have fees that we would pay on our bank account, and then when it got moved to the treasurer, we started receiving some of the interest that gets paid to the
Right.
umbrella.
And this is the same situation in the recorder document storage. The investment income was actually in the negatives, and then it was budgeted at 0, and now it's moving up to a projected amount of 100 it was at 157,000 for 2024. So this is also the exact same thing with regard to the treasurer's office. Okay.
Yep.
So then I want to move on to the recorder's section, if I may, with the expenses. So I want to talk about the fact that your subscription IT arrangements have gone down significantly, both in the recorder as well as in the dock storage expenses. And I'm just wondering if there's a reason why you are no longer using these subscription IT arrangements, because in the dock storage, you know, it was at $225,000 and now it's going down to $100,000.
So, yes, we, had. I'm sorry, which account are you talking about?
Okay, so here in the dock storage fund, that's where we are. Yep. It would be, again, in the subscription IT arrangements for other contractual services. It was at 225,000 in 2022 or 169,000 for actual. And then it moves down to 50,000 for 2024. And you're projecting in 2026 for 100,000. So I'm just, again, wondering, has there been something that's changed with regard to IT?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me. No, because we still. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's not up on this slide. I'm looking at the open gov.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Sorry about that, guy.
So other contractuals I have. Oh, yes. increase. Oh, yes. I think it's because we moved, so part of it is in dock storage is, I'm sorry, I forgot, we are moving our bulk storage copy fees from revenue from dock storage to the general fund. There is a cost associated with that, which is like the service to provide those documents to the vendor. So along with the revenue, there's cost that is, being passed on to the general fund now.
Okay. But are there certain applications that the office was using before and that you guys are not going to be using going forward? And that's why the IT arrangements?
No, I think it's just shifting from the dock storage to general fund.
Okay.
And it is a software. It's like Monarch through our Fiddler Technology, which is our vendor.
I see. Okay. So then my last question actually has to do with training and education as well as travel expenditures. So I am on the OpenGov sheet, sorry. So let me just take a look at what it says up here. Basically that these travel expenditures are moving from 2,000 to 12,500, as well as training and education from 2,000 to 20,000, I believe. So these are very, very large increases. And I do understand the importance of travel expenditures and training and education. And I know that your office, as you said, they were not investing in that before. But I just want to make a note that I know that in our IT departments, they actually alternate, I think, years as to which employee will be doing training. And as opposed to having the entire office being trained in one fiscal year for cost, to just make it more cost effective, obviously. So I'm just wondering if that is something that you considered or would consider.
Absolutely. We're sending, this year my team went down to Springfield. The Illinois Department of Revenue had a very important seminar on MyDeck, which is if we don't do those right, state supervisor assessments office, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for the state of Illinois. So I sent 4 employees down there to go to that training. They had not been before. So yes, we are looking at alternating who goes to what. We're also going to look at online opportunities as well. So we put that in there. Maybe we won't use it all, but I wanted to ensure that the employees had the opportunity to take some educational courses and to also go out and meet other recorders or other people that do the same thing they do. We are also going to Kane County. My team's going there Monday, I think the 14th, to see how they do their job. That's going to be a free educational training, right? So we're sending them out to other recorders' offices too. But I do feel, investments in your workforce, keep your workforce strong, and they are value added to our taxpayers. When I have a well-educated workforce that can answer questions, that knows what they're doing, that can perform the job so that when we do something, we're not impacting the clerk's office, we're not impacting the supervisor assessment's office, we're not impacting the Illinois Department of Revenue negatively.
Yeah, so as a follow-up, I think, again, like you were saying, alternating
Yes.
employees and getting training may cut
Yes.
some of those costs with regard to travel expenditures or training and education. And I also know that the IT department, perhaps with procurement, you guys could find some online education. that would
Absolutely.
be, maybe more affordable. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Member Yu.
Okay, thank you. Member Galassi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I definitely appreciate all of you being here and the transparency of your presentation, because we know that that's important, and when we're not getting it from all the electeds, it's frustrating. So thank you for that. I guess I just wanted to ask the county staff a little bit more history on the headcount for the recorder document storage. My understanding was that those headcounts were in that account much longer than 2022. But can you give us that history, Jeff?
Yes, as part of the process, we do look at headcount. We track that internally pretty closely. As far as the dock storage, there's a budgeted headcount of 8, which looks like been consistent since 2005. There has been a 5-year average of 6 filled headcount in dock storage. So that's kind of the history there.
Okay. And I mean, also to add to that history, my understanding was the fees related to those recording, in that account were set based on that headcount. Is that true?
We'd have to go back and look at the study, but typically when there's a study that's done, I think the last one was done in 2020, to set those dock storage fees, you look at all of the expenses, and if there's budgeted headcount within that fund, then one would assume that the fees were set to offset all of those expenses within dock storage.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I understand there would be other expenses in addition to salary, but the 6-person headcount would have been part of the calculation in 2020 for setting those recording fees. Okay. And then what is the history? I just know, like, part of the budget process when we came into this year, we discussed that, we want to eliminate excess headcount in all the budgets. So I'm curious what the history has been of the headcount in the general fund.
Let's see,
For the
the
recorder's
general fund, see, 2025, we had a current headcount, budgeted headcount of 20 with we currently have 14 that are on payroll. So it looks like there are 6 headcounts that are open as of this time.
Okay. And do you have a history of that as well? What the history, the last 5-year average?
Yeah, we go back to 2005. We had a budgeted headcount of 25. So over about almost 20 years, the headcount has been reduced to 20 with a current filled headcount of 14.
Do you have the average of the last 5 years?
The average is about 15 filled over the last 5 years.
15. Okay. So, recorder chaplain, what in the budgeted salary request of 1.6 in that general fund, what is the head count that is accounting for?
That is 22 and me is 23. So that's right. Is that correct, Leah? Yes. Or
So-
minus out. No, it's 22 because we minus out our IT. So it's 22.
Okay, so to compare apples to apples, last year, or in last year's budget, there was a head count of 8 in the recorder, the document storage, and a head count of 20 in the general fund. So
Yeah,
that's,
between document storage and GIS. Yes.
well, the head count request was 20 and 8, so that's 28.
Right.
And that,
right.
but it was averaging 15 and 6, so it was actually 21.
Right, but we did not fill those positions. Those 8 in doc storage over the years, have they been left empty?
Yeah, there's, yeah,
I thought Jeff just said there were 6.
There was, but over the years, when they had those additional 8 in those funds, those, I believe, they were not,
So I
they
think
were
this for the
placeholders.
past
What were they?
years were the first time we've had a full 8 salaries in dock storage. Prior to that, I think it was prior to 22, there was a lot of people that came and went. So there was, you know what I mean? But we'd never actually had 8 full salaries coming out of dock storage until I believe 22.
Budgeted for, but we did not use them.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an
So-
understanding
Yeah, it
of
was
what
budgeted for, but
what
they
the
were
head
not
count has been
used.
on average versus what you're requesting, because
In the general
we're-
fund?
well, the problem is you're moving people from place to place,
Yeah.
so it's hard to
Yeah, and-
compare. I'm
right.
trying to compare apples to apples.
Right, and we're, and really, all right, honestly, the reason why we're moving these is because we were told we can't have that our consultant could not be paid out of dock storage because he wasn't working on these.
But did you
fields.
ask the auditor if the employees, because those are 2 different categories?
Well,
Whether
I would, you're paying somebody out of the dock storage fee that's not doing dock storage. I would assume, and we're going to get clarification, I think, from the state's attorney on that. And if we can move them back, if I have the okay from the state's attorney, we can move them back, but I'm not moving them back until I get the okay, because this is where I'm saying there's a lot of confusion and a lot of policies and procedures that we're trying to follow the rule. We're trying to do the right thing here. So, but if I get the green light from the state's attorney's office to put those employees in dock storage, can we? I guess then we can put them back.
Lisa, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my preference, assuming it's allowable.
I think the auditor had requested more information and was looking
To
to figure out
prove
where,
it to be
well,
good.
I mean, we have not been asked to look at it, but we definitely will look at it to see if that can happen.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I mean, assuming it's allowable,
Yeah.
that would be my preference to
yes.
have this in the
Yes.
in the account where the
Yes,
revenues
and-
are being generated.
Right. And we're trying to be, we're trying, like I said, we're just trying to follow, what we're been told, and we're trying to do the right thing. So thank you. I
Understood,
appreciate
yeah.
it. Yes.
So then a follow-up question is, just the increase in salaries. And I'm just kind of trying to echo what Member Cahill is saying. I mean, it is a large 54% increase, is a large increase, and we need to be, judicial with taxpayer money and understanding the uncertainty of the federal government. That topic has come up at every finance meeting that we've had. So it is concerning to me that, I mean, I understand you came last year after you were elected and asked for increases. So the 24, budget was roughly 800 and we bumped that 300,000. And now if we're comparing apples to apples, you're asking for another 150,000 because I removed the dock storage employees over. So, I mean, that is just quite a large increase over a 2-year span. So I'm just, asking kind of what Member Cahill said, like we need to find places where we can reduce the 50% increase.
I totally agree. And, I did watch the budget presentation where we talked about $37 an hour you have to make to afford food, right? So, I mean, if you guys look at my employees' salaries, I encourage you to go on and look. They're really not out of line. Nobody is making, I don't have any, besides my executive team, nobody's making 80,000. Nobody's making 70,000. I mean, my people are being paid in the mid 60s to the mid 40s. So I don't have, they're really not making huge amounts of money, but we can go back, we'll take a look, but like I said, it's not, I want my people to be able to buy food too. So
Understood. I'm just making the point that to Member Cahill's comments, a 54% budget increase is it's not going to be sustainable across all the elected officials.
And if you look at what our budget, how much it was cut last year, it was cut, I believe, $500,000. So the budget was continually cut over the last 4 years. So you compare other budgets and we're not really out of line. Did we do that inflation? We did the CPI, but we didn't do what our budget should have been, did we? We didn't bring it up. But I can send that information to you from 2018 to now with the CPI, what our budget should be and what we're asking for. So,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, this is my 7th year on this board, and I have rarely seen a budget presentation as thorough as this one. Justifications were made for everything. You've really set a very high bar for anyone who comes before us. And I certainly appreciate all of the questions that have been asked. But I think what we need to see and what we are seeing presented to us here is a department that has basically been revamped completely in 6 months' time. And I appreciate the work that you put into this, but I think we can see, especially from the way Recorder Chaplain is speaking, they have done things conscientiously, they have thought things through, and they've basically touched every single function of this office. So while we hear 54%, I think in this case, there is certainly, and plus their budget overall compared to other elected officials, departments, et cetera, is really not a large portion of our budget. But to see this kind of revamping going on, this kind of transparency is exactly what we're looking for. We're all very aware of what's happening with the federal budget, et cetera, the possible results to our constituents. I've personally given 75% of my member initiative money to 3 food pantries. So we're all very aware of that, but we also have to make sure that our government functions. And when I see a presentation like this with this transparency, I can't appreciate it more. And especially 6 months in, you've done yeoman's work, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Member Zay online.
Good morning. Good morning, Recorder Chaplain. Many of my questions have been asked already, so I'm not going to ponder on the 54%. My question's on your revenue projections. You have almost 750,000 increase in your revenue projections, which is more than the last 2 years of the revenue increases. Can you explain that? I know you talked about some new document fees that you're going to be charging, but for a big increase of almost 750,000 over the 2025 projected is a little alarming to me.
Yeah, so our increase in revenue, we've included a 3% increase just in volume, and it does incorporate a 2% increase to our recording fee. And this is based on pending final official results from a cost study that we've commissioned. So that would be the increase. So
But isn't it, with everything going on, isn't it better to be more conservative on your revenues than it is to, have an increase this increase of 750,000 is larger than any increase you've had since 2022?
So
I mean, 1 year we lost 1.8 million in revenue compared to final budget. So, I mean, again,
so we've been.
I know new fees and new other things, but I can't see it being more than,
So our revenues did plummet after COVID. Obviously, COVID and the low rates, we had huge volume. So that was a huge part of why we had such high revenues. And then we've kind of been on a, down slope. Things are picking up. And according to what we've read, there's supposed to be a 3% increase in the market, et cetera. So I think that now this is kind of on a slow increase based on the housing market.
Okay, thank you. And again, I am concerned, Recorder Chaplain, you were the finance chair, so our concerns are not just political, they're on reality. There's some increases, obviously salary, contractual. I mean, salaries, we want to pay our people a lot. I know I've got engineers that work in stormwater that would love to make, a lot more money than they can, but they can't because we just don't have the money to pay them. So again, we'll take a look at it. I appreciate you coming in and taking all these questions, and it's always good seeing you at the board.
Thank you. Thanks, Member Zay.
Member Desart.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Recorder Chaplain, for one of the most detailed and thorough presentations I've ever seen the years I've been sitting on this board. I want to point out to the public that we are all concerned about food insecurity and housing. We all desire support in that, and we will get through that. But I wanted to say I added a 54% increase after the recorder's budget has been cut for years is just getting us back up to normal. So it's not necessarily one year increasing the budget 54%. It's just getting us back up to where we should have been. DuPage County, we have the best of everything. We should have the best recorder's office. One thing I wanted to point out is that the success of any organization and every organization is what? It's people, it's employees. And our employees in the recorder's office have been woefully underpaid for at least 4 years. So I'm happy to see Recorder Chaplain bring our employees up to a decent pay, invest in them by sending them to conferences and additional training and education. I am thrilled to see that. And, just to point out the obvious is that Recorder Chaplain has special statute obligations that she legally has to fulfill. And therefore, the budget that has been cut for so many years needs to be up to where Recorder Chaplain needs it to be to do the job of the recorder's office. Thank you so much, Recorder Chaplain.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
Member Eckhoff.
Oh, okay.
I got a little.
Need a chair.
When we were talking about the number of headcount and that there were 7 unfilled positions, but apparently that some of them get filled on and off during the year.
No, that's no longer, there was a lot of turnover in the office prior. So the last 4 years, there was kind of like, I would say, a revolving door. So people were coming and going, leaving. So they were I believe they were taking people in and out of that special fund because as they were coming and going, they were pulling employees out of there, maybe not replacing them or maybe replacing them in that fund.
What's the unfilled headcount right now?
Do we have any? We have seven total unfilled.
Okay, that's what I thought somebody said. And has that been the case for the last year? 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. How many, would you say how many years? At least 4.
But they're funded through the budget, your proposed budget, right?
I don't know. We did not put the 7. We did not put the 7 unfilled in our budget. No, they're there, but we did not put those. We did not ask for money for those 7 unfilled headcounts.
Okay, because last year when you made the salary adjustments, I thought that came from the unfilled positions that existed at that time.
What did those come from?
Yeah, so we did.
So prior to that, so there was several management that left in 2024. So there were extra funds because like I said, 2020, that office was a revolving door. And in 2024, they did lose quite a few people. And so they weren't paying those managers that had left. So that allowed us to have extra money at the end to increase
so if
salaries.
If you have 7 unfunded positions, why would we continue to carry that along? If you're only using 1 here and there?
We so we only funded 1 vacant position, and that's going to be 1 IT staff member in doc storage. Everything else, the only positions that we funded are current staff members.
Why would you leave that? Why would you leave the other 6 open if they're not going to be filled?
Because if, for example, I don't know, if we were to pick up like something like COVID happened again, where the rates plummet and we are up in volume, then we would have room to hire, but we haven't budgeted. And I think that's pretty normal, is to keep your head count in case you ever do need it, but we're not allocating any funds to
Why
it.
don't you choose 10 or 3 instead of 7?
I'm not.
That right now, the employees that we have meet the needs of the office. So if we needed 3 more, there would be 4 open head count.
And I appreciate that. What I guess what I've said here on the board floor, maybe when you were present too, is that those changes I think need to come. If you found a need for 3 additional people, I think that request needs to come through the board.
Absolutely.
We fund it as opposed to what happened last year. And
Correct.
I know you did your best.
Correct.
With working with staff, but it needs to come through us. So I think the head count should be what you expect the next 12 months to be, and not anticipating for some.
Well, our head count is, we funded what we need for the next 12 months. We have, what was it, 7 open head count that we did not fund for. I believe the board, I believe you guys set the head count. So if you want to pull my open head count, I think you can do that. I mean, I think I think you guys set the head count for each office.
Something I would encourage
So-
staff to do.
Maybe that's what you, because I believe the county board sets the head count for the offices.
I think you're right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the last question I think we're going to take on this, except for my comment. Oh. Okay, members A. Yes. Members A.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, member Schwarzy.
Thanks. I've been listening to everybody's comments, and I just want this board to understand some of the accomplishments that our recorder has done. I had a family member working in the recorder's office a few years back, and the pay was not a livable wage, and that's how low the employees were being paid. The morale was low. The turnover was extensive, including long-term employees were leaving. And so thank you so much for the work that you've done. And I know it was not easy getting to even where you're at right now. And there is savings in the work that you're doing by increasing salaries and benefits and so forth. And, you know, we may not see that, but there is savings in the fact that you're not going to lose your employees.
That's right. It costs money. If you lose employees, it costs money to retrain, invest. It costs money to pay unemployment. I mean, you know, there's lots of things that go in when you have to retrain your workforce. And, you know, when I did come in, our staff was demoralized. And that first week that I came in, I gave them all information for our EPA program so that they could call somebody and get the help that they needed because they were damaged. And I recognized it and I did provide them with the tools. A lot of them were in my office crying. I mean, I was dealing with a really damaged group of people. And you know what? You treat them with respect. You show them a little bit of kindness. You give them the tools they need to succeed. And now even other departments come by. Oh my God, people are smiling and they're talking in your office. We turn the music back on. It cost a little bit of money. It cost us $100 a month. But you know what? The music has been great. So, you know, that's what we're trying to do. It's $100 a year, $100 a year. Sorry about that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, that's a lot of money for me.
yes.
All right, thank you so much. And I am going to take that as the last question because we do have to get through another presentation very quickly here today. And well, I just have a couple of things to say. And I just, first of all, want to thank you so much for being here and doing this presentation. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of between Vice Chair Cahill's. I'm a little concerned about the increase, but I understand some of the increase. I think we'll be working on it to try to find a good compromise. I'm very excited that you're finally entering the century and doing microfilm on full digitation. I left my old job and we were doing Laserfiche back in the day. So it's been a few years on that one. So I know it needs to be done here. It's also easier to find, easier to search, all that stuff, and easier to save. I'm glad you're saving the recorder. The restrictive covenant, you know, is something that I think is very great. I mean, I'm writing all these wonderful things done that you've done. I do want to get clarification from the auditor and the state's attorney about the dock storage, you know, and whether those people have come out. Because I think that's something, because not only is there salaries, that's also their IMRF, that's their insurance, their social security.
Right.
So it's something that we do have to be actually concerned about. So we'll be working on this together. You gave such a great presentation today, and I thank all of the board members for their very thoughtful questions on stuff. And I think that we were able to have a great conversation today. So you've led the lead on this.
Well,
So
thank you so much. I appreciate, yes, I do appreciate all the comments and questions too. And like I said, if you ever want to have us come into executive session and talk about how we're safeguarding our office, we'd love to come and chat with you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the team. All right. Moving on to DuPage County Supervisor of Assessments, fiscal year 2026 budget presentation.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's AJ Croker. I'm the Supervisor of Assessments here at DuPage, and I manage two budgets, the Supervisor of Assessments and the Board of Tax Review. So I'm going to give you an overview of each, and I hope to be brief, and I'm happy to take questions at the end. The next slide, please. The Supervisor of Assessments Office is created by state law, and we play a vital role in the tax cycle. This office acts as an equalization authority, a statutory clerk of the Board of Tax Review. We administer homestead and non-homestead tax exemptions, and we provide statistical analysis that correlates to the work for the 9 township assessors in the county. We're a department of 15 employees that include salaries for the Supervisor of Assessments and clerical support staff for the Board of Tax Review. Next, please. The Board of Tax Review adjudicates real estate assessment appeals and is an assessment equalizing authority in the tax cycle. They're the final local authority with the power to ensure a uniform and equitable property assessment. This department consists of salaries for 3 regular members and per diem amounts for our expanded Board of Review. Next slide, please. So between the 2 departments, there is 1 revenue stream and 2 expense budgets. For the Supervisor of Assessments Office, there is a revenue stream which is basically reimbursement from the state, the Illinois Department of Revenue. As long as our department meets certain metrics each year, they reimburse us monthly. Next slide. Okay, and then this is an overview of the budget for the Supervisor of Assessments Office. To start, I'm happy to report that this department, sorry, I get choked up just thinking about it. I'm happy to report that we are requesting $130,000 less than the year before, which is approximately 7.5% less than our request for 25. A couple items I'd like to highlight. I understand there may be questions on a few. Although we are a smaller department, there are a few line items in our budget that are high. Postage and advertising are our largest amounts by far. And those 2 line items are really expenses that we don't control. Those are dependent on what the township assessors do each year with their assessment changes. And when they change an assessment on a property, my office is required to do 2 things. 1, we have to send the taxpayer a notice in the mail of what their new assessment is, and 2, it has to be published in the newspaper. So there is a lot of unpredictability there. We don't know what the townships are going to do each year. So really these 2 expenses are kind of reactive, and it is unpredictable each year. I do want to highlight, because I understand there may be a question about it, in 2023, what happened. 2023 was a general reassessment year. So every property in the county had to be reassessed, and every property had to receive notice of what their new assessment would be. And we budgeted for that. Unfortunately, we were going through our implementation with our new technology provider, and it unfortunately got a little bit behind. It took a while. So normally when these change of assessment notices go out, that's in the months of September, October, November. Unfortunately, we were not able to publish any township assessments until December of 2023, start of the new fiscal year. So that's why for example, our advertising expenditure in 23 virtually went unused. Right. Next slide, please. And then this is an overview of our expenses for the Board of Tax Review. As you can see, it's a lot less robust than our Supervisor of Assessments department. And it stayed relatively flat over the years. I'm happy to report that we're not asking for any more money than we got the year before. Outside of regular salaries, the largest expense that this department incurs each year is the per diem and stipend line. That's money that we use to pay to our expanded Board of Review when they're able to help us out when Board of Review is in season. That's all I had. I was brief for you all, I hope. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, first question, Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we go back to the screen, the one right before that, please?
The big one.
Yeah, thank you. So the first thing I want to say is thank you for being here, because we appreciate when every department comes and gives a presentation. And also thank you for asking for less in 26 than you did in 25. That said, I do want to point out that 25's projected actual is still approximately $300,000 less than what you're asking for this year. I did understand your explanation that some of these expenses are not, are not predictable. But I do just want to make the point that I think as my goal, looking at all these budgets this year, is to get rid of any excess fat, if you will, and make them as precise, concise, accurate as we possibly can, so we don't have a large surplus. So, and it looks like 24 was an anomaly at 1.7. Everything else has been considerably lower than 1.6. So I guess I just would ask if, there's any give that you think you could, any fat in this budget that you think you could peel back based on the history and
Sure.
the fact that last year was $300,000 less. And again, I know your budget is small compared to the overall, but I think we need to go through this process with every budget that we're reviewing. So if you could
Let
comment
me
on that.
let me give a brief explanation of that. So in 2025, we went through an office reorg, and we determined that there are some staff that could be better served in different roles. And then, so they were essentially put in a different position. So for part of the year, we had positions that went unfilled. And then we also had some retirements in there. Obviously, this is my first month, so there are some openings that have not been filled so far this year and won't probably be filled over the next few months for 25. So that's why there is a little bit of a drop off in the actual salaries for 2025. And then I did forget to mention this. I apologize. I am also going to, due to that reorg and the efficiencies that my predecessor Helen and I found over the last year, we have our office in really good working order where it is. We do have a few positions that I'd like to fill by the end of this year, but overall I am reducing the headcount by 1.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So just to understand, the increase from 25 projected salaries of approximately $150,000, $175,000 is because you anticipate filling 1 or 2 more positions that are open right now?
It is my goal to fill 2 positions by the end of this fiscal year. I want to, get settled in first.
Sure.
And see what was needed and out there before I got started with that.
Okay, and understood. So assuming you fill those 2, you would still be decreasing the headcount of your office by 1.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you for that explanation.
Vice Chair Cahill.
Thank you very much. I really applaud you for 130,000. That was my comment right away, for asking for 130,000 less. And to Member Galassi's point, we do like to look at budget versus actual.
Mhm.
And so there is still an increase there. Tell me about your postage expenditure and what's happening with that.
So the postage expenditure is money that we use for various different things throughout the year. First and foremost is the change of assessment notices that go out in the fall. So I'm sure some of you have received those over the years, those lovely letters that let you know what your assessment's going up. So we budget for that. And then we also have to send notices to our seniors and disabled veterans and disabled persons for exemption renewals for them. And then also last, because we are the statutory clerk for the Board of Review, we have to send out the Board of Review notices when Board of Review has ended session and what the decisions are. We have to mail those as well. So throughout the year, it is an expenditure that varies, unfortunately, and we don't know what it's going to be. We can only do our best to try and predict what it is.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, the postage rates are completely out of your
They are.
capability of controlling. Is there any other questions on the Supervisor of Assessments budget? Thank you so much for coming here and showing this. This has been very helpful, so we appreciate you sticking around through the meeting and coming up here and doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay. Do we have any old business that we want to discuss? Oh, any new business? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion adjourned. We are now adjourned.